I'm Melissa Nielsen, and welcome to 2023.
Parenting and homeschooling can feel like a large feat to take on. Melissa Nielsen is here sharing her 26 years experience to help us. Melissa will inspire you with foundations for early childhood, Waldorf curriculum by the grade, middle school and high school resources, planning for peace, form drawing, beeswax modeling, wet-on-wet painting, inner work, temperaments, music, handwork, festivals, eurythmy, circle time, creating a co-op, homeschooling multiple children, conscious parenting, special needs, peaceful bedtime, and much more.
We're going to be doing our podcast in a two-piece format. So the first piece will be here on YouTube or on the podcast platform where you can listen to it for free. And the second piece, which is a deeper piece, a little more like going behind the scenes with Melissa a little bit. How do I actually apply these things in my life? And sometimes some juicier content. That is going to be available on our Patreon. Welcome to this week's podcast. So I thought I would take this opportunity, since it's the beginning of the year, to talk about festival prep. So often I will do this work in two parts. I will start it when we start the school year, and I start to really think about, especially those fall festivals, what I've got coming and how I want things to feel. But that work really for me starts earlier, starts like at the beginning of the year. So what I want to talk about today is sort of how you can lay out your prep for the year and really make festivals something that mean a lot to you. Now, if you're brand spanking new to Waldorf or to celebrating festivals, I just want to tell you that just because I'm loving all the festivals and I tend to do most of the festivals, I've been at it a long time. So a long time. My oldest child, as I'm me filming this, is almost 26 years old. And we have been working with Waldorf concepts and principles for more than 20 years. And then on top of that, I was raised for part of my childhood in Europe. And so we did some of these festivals anyway. That's just part of our family. So I sort of have this background in this space. And so don't let that intimidate you, but I am going to show you sort of what I do, how I go about prepping for things, and then also how you can go about prepping for things and not feel super stressed out. When we talk about our festival plan, I usually, I recommend our festival planning sheet. You can find that in our Planning for Peace journal, and it's in the months section of that journal. And I have to tell you, we've gone back and forth with where to put it. They used to all be lumped together in one place, and people didn't like that because then they had to flip back and forth. They liked it better when, they could have it right there in the month. I'm not sure I like it there like that. You're gonna hear my dog barking because that's what happens. It's the Nielsen house, and she's this big bloodhound, and she thinks everybody needs to hear her. Anyway, so back to the festival plan. The reason why I love having it in my planner where all of my other work is for the school year is I'm using this every day. I'm in it every day, so it's easy for me to make tabs for the month. It's easy for me to look ahead when I'm doing my planning for the week and see sort of oh, all right, that's right, we have a festival this month. What does that look like? What things do I need to gather? So I encourage you, as you're sort of going through and getting going in your festivalness, that you use some sort of outline. I'm going to walk you through the outline that we have here in the planner, and then also just sort of some other things that I personally do. But the very first thing you have to do is decide what you're celebrating. So I go through and I make a list, and my list tends to be pretty representative of most Waldorf festivals. I have a few others thrown in there, and there are some that we don't regularly do. I don't regularly do Harvest because for the last 10 years, I've lived in a place where it's always summer. So yes, while I can see the harvest at the farmer's market it's a lot different than having a fall festival in sort of that middle or upper section of the United States, or actually of the globe, where you guys have more of a four seasons type thing. So you know when fall is coming. You know when you feel that cold breeze come September, that, oh, it's coming. I better make sure that we're doing these harvest things. So I'm not generally doing that one. I did write it on my list though for this year with a question mark, because that tends to be the hottest time of the year in Florida. And frankly, I don't want to be here then. I want to be someplace cooler. So it may be that we may end up spending harvest in a cooler space, or that harvest time in a cooler space like Idaho or Montana, that kind of thing. So we may be able to participate in some kind of harvest festival in that regard. And if we do, we'll just sort of decide what things are important to us at that time. So also remember that I am going to talk to you about from when my kids were young, and talk to you about how they are now. I've only got 2 left at home as of the filming of this. And well, they humor me all the time. We have fun with festivals. We just did Christmas Tide and finished all of that up. And so they are really enjoying festival life. That's been part of their life since they were tiny. And so it's no different to them. But, there are times when they have to start shifting as they're getting older. And I think that becomes this time when we have to know what they mean to us in order to make sure that we're sort of laying the groundwork for them so that they have it mean something to them. So I'm going to talk more about that in sort of the second half of this podcast, and just sort of how we are going about that with older children. But right now, let's focus on first, like, make your list. Make your list. I'm going to tell you, there's a lot on my list. This note card is full. So we just finished Three Kings Day, so that's at the top of my list, but it's already been celebrated. So it's also the last thing on my list, because I want to think, when I'm putting together Christmas Tide for this year, I want to be thinking about what elements do I want to include for them. So the first one really on my list would be Candlemas, which I have the added complication of it being my birthday. So I tend to not celebrate them together generally, just because I love Candlemas and I love everything that it signifies. But I also like my birthday. So we will generally do a Candlemas celebration that is not on Candlemas, right on Candlemas. Sometimes we do, but not often. I want to do something special for Valentine's this year. We sort of sometimes do something, I'll send Valentine's to the kids and that kind of thing. And we'll go out to lunch as a family, that kind of thing, and just really sort of talk about things that we love about one another, but also things that we love about life and that kind of thing. So I'm really looking to create some stronger bonds around Valentine's Day a little bit, not from the commercial aspect, but just for our family. I've got the spring equinox on here, which is one we always have fun with. We have Easter on here. I have May Day on here, which can be a little harder to celebrate when you're not in a big group. So I'll talk about that a little bit. Midsummer, or the summer solstice. July 4th, we are Americans, so we will celebrate July 4th in some capacity. I actually haven't decided fully what that capacity is. And let me pause for a minute. So while I say I'm laying out the festivals for the year, if I don't 100% know what I'm doing, I will still leave a place marker for it, because if I don't, nothing will happen. It will be July 2nd and I'll be like, crap, we don't even freaking have fireworks. And that's a whole new place for us too, because we lived in lands where there was no fireworks for many years. And Eric has this funny story. Last year he went to get fireworks, and it's like a mall. He said that he was in line, and I know it's got to be a Southern thing, but he said he was in line and he was shocked that people were spending thousands of dollars on fireworks, and they didn't look like they were buying for a church or for a any other organization than it was like personal thing. And so we were just sort of laughing about like how there's like a fireworks store down the street that is open all the time, like all the time. That doesn't mean fireworks are shown all the time, but it is funny to me that it's open all the time. And then of course I've got Harvest on here. And that, when I was a practicing pagan, we would do Lammas more and really focus on that. But I lived in Idaho at that time. So again, it was easier to do when I felt, for me, when I felt the coming of harvest. Michaelmas, which is, I can't say it's my favorite, but man, it sure ranks up there. I love Michaelmas. I do. There's something about St. Michael and just that bravery. And I think about the poem, what is it? Brave St. Michael is my guide, as free and fearless forth I ride. Yeah, there is something about St. Michael that I just truly love. And then Halloween, which is not my favorite festival. I'm just going to tell you, like, if I had to rank these, it would rank dead last. But somehow I have raised these little people that really like dressing up. Maybe it has something to do with all the silk dress-ups that they have had their entire life. But yeah, so I'm going to have to do Halloween in there. I'm not really excited about it, but I've got some time. I've got 10 months to think about it as of right now. So I'm sure I'll come up with something that will please me. Then we've got Martinmas, which I love Martinmas. I love lanterns. If you've watched me for 5 minutes, you know I love lanterns and I have lots of lanterns. And so I really love Martinmas. Every year I'm like, oh, I'm making another lantern. And my husband's like, why? Because they're fun and they're pretty. And, I have just even here on my desk, these little lanterns that we like. This is just a candle holder, but, all of those fun things. So I really love Martinmas just for this symbology, like the way it symbolically like brings the light into the darkness. And it brings this space of Martinmas is this light going into the darkness. Then you have the birth of the light in the middle of Christmastide, and then you've got the light coming out of the darkness with Candlemas. And so there are these festivals of light that for me in my personal life are really important, and they might be different for you. You might have other family background or religious or historical or some other cultural background that has you celebrating way different festivals. Guess what? That's okay. I'm just telling you how Melissa does it and sort of what I do. It doesn't matter what the content of your festivals is. Festivals, yes, that's a weird word. But it doesn't matter the content. What matters is that you make it special and that you take the time to sort of put some thought to it. If it's important to you, put thought to it and lay it out. So again, Martinmas, and then I have Advent, which is, all month of light. And I plan out Advent because even though, we have St. Nicholas and Santa Lucia and the winter solstice and all of those things in December, Advent is a completely different ballgame for me. It is almost a container for all of the other light stories. And I truly kind of don't see the end of Advent at Christmas. I sort of see the end of Advent at Three Kings Day with the Epiphany, because we don't really stop doing things. Like Three Kings Day is like the end of Christmastide. It's like the end of the Christmas holidays. And, I realize that for most Americans, the end of Christmas holidays is 5 minutes after the presents are all opened. That's not the ancient way or the traditional way of celebrating Christmas. So you want to keep that in mind if those are traditions that you're wanting to make for you and your family. So I want to tell you too, I have an ex-husband, so he and I had created traditions. Then we got divorced. He created a whole bunch of different traditions. But my current husband, Eric, he didn't have any of our traditions. So he got to learn and he got to sort of be part of those and sort of bring in some of his own. So, if you've seen us eat sloppy joes on Thanksgiving and on Christmas. That is from Ma Nielsen, not this Ma Nielsen. That is from his mother. We also will do, like on the 4th of July, it usually involves some colored soda, which is so bad for you, but once a year it's not going to kill anybody. The red Fanta and the blue Fanta, and with some ice cream. So you've got this red, white, and blue thing going. So I love to sort of bring those things together. So if you're really thinking, I want to build some traditions, talk to your partner first. Examine your own childhood, talk to your partner, and then if you're both like, we didn't do anything except for Christmas and the 4th of July and Easter, well, then you probably should have a conversation about like, what's important to you? What do you want to bring your family with regards to festivals? And again, please don't do them all at once. You will exhaust yourself, and then you will be really frustrated, especially when you get from Michaelmas on. It just seems like there's a festival almost every week, although that's not really true. It just feels like that. Because once you get to Martinmas, and then you've got Thanksgiving, and then you have Advent, and then you have St. Nicholas, and then you have Santa Lucia, and then you have the solstice, and then you have Christmas, and then you have Three Kings Day, and then it starts all over again. So you really want to sort of pace yourself. And when you're looking at what to start with, first read what they all are. And ask yourself, what do I resonate with? And if you don't resonate with all of them, doesn't mean you throw them out forever. It just means you set it aside for now. It means that you're in a space of growth, and as you grow, your mind may change. It may not, and that's okay. I also tend to, when we're doing 3rd grade, we're not Jewish, but when we're doing 3rd grade, we tend to do all of the Hebrew festivals, just so that the child can really understand what's going on in the Hebrew year. It's way different than the Christian year. So you want to sort of like understand that and take that in and use it as a point of education. I think we live in a time where, there's a lot of people that need to learn, and that learning about each other is how we understand each other, even if you don't agree with each other, even if you don't agree with how somebody believes, or maybe you were raised in a household where being a Christian was like you were beaten with that. Like, I can totally understand that space. And or any religion, really. It doesn't. Christians do not have the corner on guilt for their followers. So it doesn't matter where you were. If that was not a good experience for you, you're going to be like really working through some inner work pieces here. So with that, I always say, first look at what the intent was of the festival, look at what the intent was of the person who harmed you, look at what that background is, and then you get to do this great thing as a grown-up. You get to make decisions about it from a grown-up perspective, not from the child's perspective of, this is what happened to me, because you don't have to be that person. You don't have to live in that space, and that is so liberating once we step out of that space of almost victimhood, and it's not really, it's victimhood, but it's the space of like all the stuff that comes with our childhood. And if you had a great childhood and you don't have any complaints, yay. But most people have some complaint about something, and so they're carrying something. But when you realize you don't have to carry it, because it is like this bag. It's a bag, and I've talked in other podcasts about the bag of poop. And it really is, it's a bag that you start to put, something happens, you put stuff in it, and something else happens, you put more stuff in it. And then pretty soon you're carrying this giant, heavy, smelly bag. And then the day you realize you can just put it down is crazy liberating. So if you're somebody that's really struggling, I want you to remember, you can put it down. You don't have to like wear it like a backpack of honor. You can just put it down, and it's so freeing. So freeing. I have done that with many things in my life, and it's so freeing. So anyways, I said Christmas tide. So I've got St. Nick, St. Lucy, the winter solstice, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Day, and then Three Kings. And because I just celebrated Three Kings, I had in all of these actually, I had the opportunity to reflect, how did last year go? And how do I want this year to go? So in just looking at my list, how did last year go? Well, there was a hurricane during Martinmas. There was a hurricane during Michaelmas. So I have to come up with plan B for I I never lived in Florida before. I didn't expect there'd be a hurricane during those festivals. Like, I don't know. Does Mother Nature not know? It's festival time, not hurricane time. So I have to adjust to what is actually happening and going on. So really that's the point of what I want you to get in this part of the podcast is just make a plan. And the plan starts with like deciding what it is that you're going to celebrate. And here's the beautiful thing. You can get started. You can edit some things and go like, oh, nope, I decided I actually don't want to do that. You can add some things in. That's why it's kind of good to have this rolling plan. So, you look at it at the beginning of the school year as you're laying out your plan for the school year, but then also look at it at like the beginning of the year, because now we are at midway point and you kind of know like what it is, how things went with school in the fall, and you know how you can expect things to go in the rest of the year. And if things didn't go well, you have the opportunity to fix them and make them go better. Anyway, join us for the patrons only version. And that's coming up right next. Find our Patreon at Ariel's Light. So Ariel's Light, if you haven't heard already, is the ministry that we started this year. Interfaith, so we welcome people of all faiths to come and experience and converse and really get to know this conscious parenting space. I see it as a space for people that might be deeply into their religion, like being able to go deeper in what that parent-child relationship means. And then people that are just trying to figure out, like, what does this inner work journey mean to me? We're in that space, and I've been there trying to figure out, well, how do I bring what's welling up inside me to my children so that they aren't lost in confusion, so that they actually have this piece of goodness and beauty that Steiner always talks about. So the ministry has roots of anthroposophy, and we will be talking about things from an anthroposophical standpoint, but also really bringing you good content that you can bring into your life